So that's like a huge commute. So if there were more affordable housing here, because where people had the jobs accessible to them, I want to work for that to happen.
Well, I 100% pro housing, and I will support any bill that will bring more housing to our area. The only concern that I have is rent control. If we're gonna build something in our community, that's my dream, to have 50% affordable housing. You know, sometimes, you know, the business can really think about it that, but if we gonna keep business, we deserve at least 50% to have affordable for the seniors. The other population we forget about it is the foster kids. Sometimes when they turn 18 or 21, they're out of the system and they're ending homeless. I see so many kids in the street, and it's so shameful for our society to have kids in the street, seniors in the street. You know, the government, especially the elected officials that we have in our community, they have to look really into that. And, you know, the bureaucracy itself, many of the constituents, they don't know how to navigate the system and ask for the right resource. Not many people knows, you know, the supervisors are the ones who really decide more about the housing and the mental health and the social service. So educating our community and acted that group to make sure that it's a knowledge resource. When I was in office, I was working in a pamphlet, so simple words, you know, where to go when they needed the service. When you call those lines, it's so hard. So many people call those lines and take months to get in the list for housing. So, you know, domestic violence, that's the other one. We don't have enough shelters in our community. Together with the housing, you know, that is another area that we have to improve. So I look forward to make policies that really make those regulations. Of course, housing is needed, but we have to be accountable in that area.
Okay. Well, it wouldn't be a debate unless I asked a transportation question. So, and while we know, of course, that it would be ideal to build more housing close to employment centers, long commutes are going to be a part of LA far into the future. I think probably most of you know also that in part due to VICA's efforts, the San Fernando Valley helped pass Measure M, which means that we're getting 3 big major transit capital projects in the valley. However, at the state level, that was obviously a county measure, at the state level, the big news was the passage of a gas tax and license fee increase known as SB1, which went into effect on November 1st. Some are now attempting to repeal SB1 via referendum, and I'd like to know what your view is first on SB1 repeal, whether you support that or not, and if it doesn't get repealed, what will you do as a member of the State Assembly to direct some of those funds to the 39th Assembly District? So let's start with Luz, and then Antonio, and Patty.
Okay, so I'm familiar with SB1 as a Public Works Commissioner. I mean, the #1 complaint we get from constituents is you need to fix our streets. Right? Everyone, and you know, Mayor Garcetti had put we graded the streets, right, A through F, and you know, it costs a lot of money, and you know, especially the most severe streets that really need repair are the most expensive to repair. And while we think, oh, those should be priority, a lot of times we don't have enough funding. You know, the per mile cost, right, to repair that street lane. And so I don't support the repeal of SB1. I think Los Angeles, like you said, we do rely on our roads, and we need to invest in repairing them. But at local levels, we're always looking for more revenue. You know, how are we going to pay for these repairs? And so I think getting money from the state, from this, you know, this additional revenue supports that. What people want their roads to be repaired, especially in the 39th district, where the majority of us do rely on our cars to get to work. You know, we have less access to public transportation compared to other parts of the city. And so, as a legislator, I want to make sure that we are prioritizing some of the roads in the Northeast San Fernando Valley for them to be repaired. And I will work with Public Works and the City of Los Angeles and collaborate with my former colleagues to make sure that that is happening.
Thank you. So I do a lot of driving as well. The nature of my job took me all over the county. So definitely familiar with the condition of the roads and also our bridges, right? This isn't, the SB1 wasn't, we have to think about transportation as a whole. We're also a major transportation hub for goods movement. Our ports here in LA and Long Beach, a statistic I heard some time ago was that every congressional district in the country receives something every day that came through these ports. Goods movement is incredibly important to our local economy, our regional economy. I drive the streets, right? Lancashire, Van Nuys Boulevard, go all the way up to Arleta. They're in need of repair. They're in need of repair. I also received my vehicle registration notes a couple of months ago, and it was higher, and that did hurt. But no, I would not support the repeal at this time. I think politically the governor was going to do everything in his power to get this through, and clearly he did, even including some Republicans, right? So, as it's important to, I think, recognize as an assembly member here, specifically from the Valley, I'd love to be on the Transportation Committee. I would love to be able to talk and fight for these issues. I've had to go to Sacramento, I've had to speak in front of city councils and school boards to push certain policy, to advocate for various jobs. There's another huge job piece. Again, we should be able to talk about the jobs that are being created, and I want them to be local. I want them to be local, not just to California, but to the San Fernando Valley. I want to see local people because this was approved, it's being generated, it's improving our roads, and we should have local folks benefiting because that helps us all.
Liz?
Oh, I guess I went. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I just want to say that I'm different. I feel like I might support and repeal that gas tax. I feel like our constituents are tired of so many taxes, and yes, we need to repair our streets and the whole create new jobs, but put more taxes to our constituents, to our public, is what we get in this situation of crisis. The government had to look into different venues, like a cap and trade. Cap and trade also have funding, so we can repair our streets. So, you know, every time, you know, like I say, you know, I've been working 35 years of my life, and I pay my taxes every time, and it's getting harder and harder to pay our dues. So government had to be accountable and not waste a lot of money. And yes, we had to work with the city and be responsible, because, you know, sometimes constituents ask that our city councils to go and check the places and take months to get it in there. You know, if they're really strong, they have to advocate for our local families that really can make it the food on the table and pay the rent and more taxes. So 100% I would tell that.
All right, let's do a couple of quick lightning round questions, and then we'll start with questions from the audience. So, and on this one, we'll start with Antonio, and then back over to Patty, and then end with Luz. All right, so first lightning question is, what's the first bill you plan to introduce if elected? 15 seconds, please.
Well, if I'm elected in June, ideally, I think the deadline would have passed. But if we're thinking ahead, the film tax credit, I think we've been able to protect and preserve a lot of San Fernando Valley jobs, and I would love to see that extended. I know that we have an assembly member pushing the effort now, and the pro tem. I'd love to be able to work on that, bring some more, keep our jobs here in the Valley.
Great. Patty?
You know, I've been focused my career has been focused on education, and there's some proposals to bring computer science education to every high school in California. I've already talked to some groups that are advocating for that, and that is my expertise, and I think I would be a champion to make sure that our students are prepared for future jobs. It starts at the K through 12 level. And having access to computer science, especially in California, the tech capital of the country, is very important. And that's something that I think that I can do fast with my expertise and working with advocates in Sacramento.
My first bill will be in healthcare. I believe the systems right now we've been fighting, and I know there's a bill on the table that is being capped for the Speaker Renton, so I will support something in that line. I don't know if it will be possible, but I will put a fight in that. So many families need health care, and right now, starting from the federal to the state, we have to do something and protect the health for all public safety. Thank you.
Tony, you partly answered this already, but second lightning round question is, what committees would you want to serve on? Patty, you can answer that.
Okay. I would like to be in housing, education, and transportation, and wildlife, seniors, and foster kids.
So my interest on what committees I'd want to be a part of as a legislator would be education, jobs and economic development, and transportation.
Any committee the speaker assigns me to. We've spoken about transportation, housing and community development, maybe a budget subcommittee as well, just making sure that we are able to continue to advocate for and fight for our resources, what should be coming to us here in the Valley.
Great. All right, let's take some 1-minute answers to audience questions. Anyone like to start? Yes, right here, sir.
I'm going to ask a very simple question that I usually ask in any kind of forum. And it would be, what have you ever done for your district that actually benefited the entire district, but not as your job or as a team, but actually you? What have you ever done that actually impacted and benefited the entire district? It could be in any order for what's the answer.
I'll start with Luz, and then we'll come back to Patty and then Tony.
Well, I started a nonprofit, which I've talked about. I was a volunteer for a few years. So I had a job, I had a full-time job, and I started this program at my elementary school, at Telfair Elementary in Pacoima. So I worked in South LA, and then I went, and so I worked with children, families, teachers. I trained teachers. And so I did that all as part of starting a nonprofit. And so while I was working in South LA. So, and that's how it led to becoming a full-fledged nonprofit. And so we've served 2,500 girls, and we've done workshops for their families on how to advocate for better education, how to choose a middle school, which is what parents really need and they're very scared of when their child is graduating from elementary school.
I'm sorry, but you didn't answer my question. I specifically said not as a team and not as your job.
No, it wasn't my job when I started it, and I started it on my own.
Well, you keep on saying we as a team, so we are nonprofit.
Well, it became a nonprofit, but I'll say, okay, so
what have you done?
Yeah, no, I went to Telfair Elementary,
I think
and I taught the science and technology classes myself, and I recruited the girls, and I worked with the parents to help them choose middle schools. I trained the teachers on how to do STEM, which is what everyone wants to send their kid to a STEM school. A lot of schools in the Valley want to become STEM or STEAM schools, but they need the training, they need the resources to do that. So that's what I did. So I brought my expertise to my community on my own.
Patty?
Well, I just started like volunteering in LAUSD for 20 years. And I started seeing that, it was a really need for the parents to learn the educational system. So I started a group of calling parents and actually from the San Fernando Valley. we help other parents to make sure the kids have quality education for the kids. I started in my kids' school, elementary, middle school, high school. So I've been helping in my community to navigate the system, not only to the parents, but the kids to graduate at time. It was really disappointing that, not all the kids had the opportunity to go to college. So I also proud to say that I lawsuit LAUSD twice. And one of the lawsuits I was part, it was the Williams case. Because believe it or not, in the San Fernando High School, not all, 50% dropped high school. So I was there with my kids and I helped so many parents. 100 of the parents not only collaborate with the parents, but the principals and the teachers and the superintendents. So I've been working at different levels for 25 years, voluntary, 100%.
Thank you. Antonio?
I currently serve on the LACCD Blind Oversight Committee. That's not paid. So it's been a couple of years now, and it's been fantastic to see the development of our local community colleges, Mission, LACCD, LA Valley College, excuse me. So that's been fun work, really. I love getting the data. I love being able to ask the questions to the staff and asking where the money is or why is this over budget in a sense. So that's been a great experience. Some time ago, I served on the LA City Council Redistricting Commission. We had about 3 or 4 meetings a week. I did this as a graduate student, so I was commuting mostly on my motorcycle to all our various meetings. But look, I've been involved in these communities for the past 15 years. So tree trimming events, free tree giveaways, neighborhood council cleanups, everything. I've been there and I've done it.
All right, next audience question. Anyone else? Right here.
So my question is about air quality. So according to the Cal Enviro screen, which is screened by the Cal EPA to measure air pollution in the state, in the district we have some neighborhoods that have some of the worst air quality in a certain state, such as Pacoima. This is for different reasons, such as the movement of goods and also industry. So my question is, what do you plan to do to improve the quality of air in our district? There are already some bills for doing that, such as